Last Saturday's 95% vote to approve the unification of Alberta's two Conservative parties has left some people just absolutely devastated and the rest frantically searching for answers. Now, those people aren't the overwhelming majority of members of both Conservative parties, though. Those people are, well, the NDP, the mainstream media, and some very entrenched cronies who just see the biscuit wheels flying off their gravy train. And today I'm going to talk to you about the latter too. So yesterday, originally, I was going to talk to you about the media, but I thought I'd best wait a day or two and watch their fake news narrative unfold, and I am very glad I did because it's even worse and even more shameless than I thought it would be. Let me take you back to the day of the unity vote in Red Deer. The Wildroses special general meeting on unity started promptly at 8 a.m. Huge thing in Alberta politics, right? Historic. So Holly Nicholas and I got there at 7:30 to settle in to cover the day's events. We wanted to hear what regular people had to say. So we interviewed them. We spoke to them all morning, actually all day. There was not a lot of other media there, though, that we could see, except for a very obvious CBC reporter who arrived sometime in the morning and a Canadian press photographer. A few other media straggled in as the day wore on. Then, because the results of the vote were supposed to be announced shortly after 4 p.m., the media just descended on the place around 2. They were setting up, hammering away on their computers, setting up their camera crews, and chit-chatting with each other. Not to the people at the special general meeting, but to each other. On Saturday, I saw how bad the mainstream media was in action. With a couple of exceptions, they all mostly showed up at 2 p.m. to report on an event they hadn't even bothered to sit through and to gauge the sentiments of people they hadn't even bothered to talk to or listen to speak. This is the lens many people are getting their news through every single day. Okay, so that's what happened the day of. Let's talk about what happened next. After that historic vote to unite the Conservative parties, it was 95% in favor, I thought no sane person would try to spin this as some sort of story of disunity. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong. What followed were 2 days of stories from the mainstream media doing their best to make a massive 95% vote for unity from both parties a story of division. Look at these stories. This one is from the CBC about the alleged battle for the center. It's an entire article devoted to how this merger will be problematic and how people are being left politically homeless by the merger of the two parties. They actually use those words, politically homeless, even though both parties saw an explosion in memberships, in people joining the political parties. The article quotes former PC President Catherine O'Neill, someone who left the party after Jason Kenney became leader, and Dave Quest, a Redford loyalist and former PC MLA who resigned in a huff from his PC board position in Sherwood Park immediately after the unity vote. The CBC tracked down the 5% of disaffected cranks and made them the story of a 95% approval vote. Then this one from CTV, written by the Canadian Press, makes another disaffected 5%er this story, this time to mark the historic merger of the two parties and their historic election of a joint interim leader. They write a story about a PC MLA named Richard Starkey deciding to sit as an independent because the party doesn't reflect his values. Yet the party hasn't made any policy, so I'm not even sure how that is supposed to work. What those articles and dozens of others like them written in the days following the vote don't do is actually quote the people I spoke to, the normal people who drove hours to Red Deer to be heard and to vote in support of unity. And that's because the media just was not there. It's remarkable. It's actually pretty delusional. We were there the whole day. It was a day of people highly motivated to get together to make it work because, like they told me, Alberta is too important for petty squabbles. Yet the media, who did not bother to show up until the late afternoon, well, they can only report on the petty squabbles of the 5% fringe. The media tried to spin the low voter turnout as a story of discord instead of just being the standard rate at which Albertans vote for anything. The numbers breakdown shows people voted at a percentage rate around the mid 50%, which is very similar to what the voter turnout was for the Alberta general election in 2015. The media spun that into a strong mandate for Notley, but it's apparently low enthusiasm for unity. Richard Starkey, that PC MLA who is choosing to sit as an independent, is being championed as a great man of ethics. In reality, his riding, albeit one with the 3 lowest supports for unity, went 85% in favor. Now, I think Richard's a good guy, but he's not respecting the will of his own voters, like floor-crosser NDP Twitter backbencher Sandra Jansen. And about Dave Quest, that board member from Sherwood Park who resigned immediately after the vote came down. His riding cast 441 votes in the unity referendum. 417 were cast for unity. That's 95%. Did the media bother to inquire with the PC party about those numbers? If they did, they never reported on it. Did any of the media try to put into context Quest's resignation to see if Quest actually reflected some sort of broad sentiment? Because he doesn't. He's the fringe. 5%. Almost a rounding error. Not even enough to really make a difference. What I learned over this amazing, hopeful weekend for Albertans is that 95% consensus is disunity if you really hate Conservatives. And you don't need to work all day to create fake news. It's actually a bit of a part-time job, but it's a full-time job to tell the truth. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. It's my job to fact-check the NDP, especially when the mainstream media refuses to. To never miss a story, be sure to subscribe to our new Rebel Canada YouTube page.